On mission. That's what we're going to focus on today in Mark chapter 2, if you want to begin to turn there. And man, what a privilege it is to be here. I just want to say thank you. Again, I'm Kevin, and I'm with the North American Mission Board. And what we do, in case you're wondering, and you probably are, we try to plant churches. And we try to plant about 1,200 churches a year. That's about 100 a month. And so every Sunday when you gather to worship, we're trying to plant 15 to 20 or more churches just like Storyline in Denver and really all over North America and all the major cities. We plant churches everywhere for everyone. And the reason for that is there's a tremendous need for churches in North America. And it's the only way to reach North America is to plant churches. But hey, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I'd like to introduce my family just real quick if I could. I wasn't able to bring them. There's too many. But I'll go through it real fast, I promise, okay? This is my wife, Lynette, to the right there, and we've been married for about 34 years. And we have 6 kids, 2 girls, the 2 in the middle are our daughters. That's their husbands, but no need to mention them. And then on the top right, that's our oldest son. He's actually in Riverside, California, at California Baptist University. And he went west, and he will never return back home. He loves it in the West. And then God blessed us with a whole second phase of children, if you will. We adopted our next 3. And the very first child we adopted was Libby. She's in the back right, back there by Taylor. And she's from China. They found Libby in a shoebox outside of a police station when she was born. And we got her when she's 1. She's almost 18. And she's a senior in high school this year. She's an angel on this earth. She's a sweetheart. And then there's Micah Lynn. She's in the middle toward the left there. She's from Ethiopia. And we adopted her when she's 3. And she's now 15. And she normally has her hand on her hip because that's where she likes it. Some of you are too young to remember a show called Sanford and Son. But there was a character on that show called Aunt Esther. And a real bossy figure. And that's exactly who Micah Lynn is, all right? She puts her hand on it, she'll boss you in a half a beat. When we first moved to Georgia, we lived in Atlanta. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm from Kentucky, but I lived in Atlanta, Georgia for about 9 years now. But when we moved there, she went into the neighbor's house and put her hand on her hip when she was about 5 and said, you people have issues. And they're like, do what? And she said, your house is a mess. You have issues. I know, my word. Can you believe it? The neighbor thought it was funny, told us, but we had to bring her home and say, look, sweetheart, we're new in the neighborhood. We're trying to make friends, and you're not helping, okay? So she's something else. And then there's JM on the back left. That's JM. He's from the Philippines. And we adopted JM when he was 12, and he's now 20. And so it's funny, when people see our family, they never know really what to do with it, And it's real funny in the South, and I'll say we have 6 kids from 4 different countries. And they'll go, well, bless your heart, And I'll say, no, there's no need to bless my heart. I'm just very competitive. And what I mean is we have 6 kids from 4 different countries. When we watch the Olympics, we win, all right? We typically do. But interesting thing, though, when we went to pick up JM, you can go ahead and take the picture of. I got 6 grandkids, by the way. Both of our older 2 daughters have 3 apiece, and they each adopted one. And that's why it's just distracting to me. I have a attention disorder. I can't stop looking at my grandkids. And there's only 4 kids on that picture. I realize I haven't updated it. When they were born, they weren't that cute, so we waited. And so, just teasing. I'm just teasing. But when we went to pick up JM, it was pretty funny because he was at 12. We picked him up. We got him when he was 12, so he's the oldest one we adopted. We adopted Libby when she was 1, Michael when she was 3, and they didn't know our language, obviously, especially Michael. And so JM did to some degree, although he was limited. And so we went to pick him up, and they said, now, look, when you take him back to the hotel room, be very careful with him because he's not used to hot water. And he could harm himself. And I said, not used to hot water. And they said, yeah, it's a luxury we don't have here in the orphanage. And they have it in Manila, I realize that, but not in this orphanage. And basically took sink baths. They found JM wandering the streets when he was 5 and sleeping in the back of a pickup truck and took him to this orphanage. And he was there from 5 to 12. And typically when you're 12 in the Philippines, you become almost unadoptable. And so they just don't adopt that old. You just don't. But we brought him home, and so we had to go back to the hotel room that very first night. Can you imagine? You're 12. You didn't think you were going to get it, and you just did. He's all excited and fired up with his family and bouncing on the bed, like you let your kids do typically at a hotel. And then it about came time for bath time, and I said, James, come here, I want to show you something. So we go in the bathroom, and I turned the water on lukewarm. And then I said, hey, buddy, let me have your hand. And so he gave me his hand. I put his hand underneath that lukewarm water. And then I said, now watch this. And I just gradually turned the water warmer and warmer and warmer until he began to feel hot water for the very first time. And he said, that is wonderful. And I said, it is wonderful. You're going to love it. Now, I'm going to go in there, but you take your clothes off and hop in the shower. And he said, shower? What's a shower? And it's just those things, I wasn't thinking, he never seen one. So I had to explain a shower to him. You ever tried to explain a shower to somebody who's, now it's not as easy as you think. Like it's water from heaven, you're going to love it. It's those things you just sometimes don't think about. It's just like the first time we went out to eat at a restaurant. He'd never been out to eat at a restaurant. We take those things for granted. He'd never been out. So I said, here, buddy, don't worry about it. I said, I'll order for you. I said, just bring him some chicken fingers. He's like, no, I not eat chicken fingers. No, I not eat chicken. I said, no, son, they're not chicken fingers. That's just what they call them. And he said, well, why do they call them that? And I was like, I don't know. Just dip them in barbecue sauce. It'll be okay. You can only imagine the first time we had buffalo wings. Oh, my word, the explanation, There's international conflict and explanation at our house every night. It's crazy. But it was interesting, when when JM came out of the bathroom, smelling really good about 45 minutes later, all shriveled up, loving the shower. And he's 20 now. Even 8 years later, he still remembers what it's like not to have hot water. He loves hot water. I remember laying there that night as I went to bed. I thought, how many 12-year-olds appreciate hot water? But honestly, wouldn't you admit that we're basically pretty spoiled people? We're incredibly spoiled and we don't think twice about things like that. And so, hey, sir, let me ask you, what's your first name? Chad. Sorry to wake you up, Chad. Hey, Chad. No. Hey, Chad, I want to ask you a question. I picked you because you look like the cleanest one in this section. All right. So, Chad, let me ask you, and be just straight up. All right, you've had a shower in the last 2 or 3 days. All right, perfect. We're all thankful. All right, Chad, let me tell you, when you took that shower, be honest with me. When you took that shower, did you go like, yes, hot water? Did you do that? Did you do that? Chad, you probably. Did you say yes, hot water? Yeah. He's trying to squib out. See, you know what's wrong with America? Right there. That's what's wrong with America. You don't have to wonder anymore. It's all on the second row. All right, so but see, we take things for granted. We just assume, all right, now probably most of you aren't wondering if you're going to have lunch. It's just what you're going to have. We just don't think about it. And so the same thing is true with churches. And that's why we plant churches. You say, well, is there really a need for that many churches? There really are. The population of North America has increased incredibly, but the number of churches we have has not. It's not kept up. And so there's a big gap and there's an incredible need. So that's why I'm so thankful for your partnership to plant churches and to do missions. But the thing is, when you talk about being on mission, now I want you to focus. When you talk about being on missions, sometimes you think of missions like you do prayer. You think bulk. We're going to pray for the world and pray for the missionaries and pray for people who are hungry. And we pray for all the foster kids. We pray for we do it in bulk. You know why we do that? It's much easier to do it in bulk. You don't get personal when you do it in bulk. You don't know a person's name. You pray for all the hungry people. That's one thing. But when you know someone who's going through a challenge, that's when it hurts more. And so today, what I want us to think about on mission, we celebrate going on trips, like Rick and the team did. But I want you to think about today being on mission, you being on mission today tomorrow. If you read your Bible, you are actually on a mission trip every day you live. You see, God puts you here for a purpose, and that's to be on mission for Him. He put you here for far more than just drawing a breath and drawing a salary. You're here to be on mission. You live your life for your work. Look, it's great to have ambition and goals and a business and all those things, but I'm telling you, here's what's going to happen. I mean, if you lean your ladder of success on that wall, you're going to climb it and do all those things, and then eventually at the end, when you leave there, they're going to clean all your stuff out, put in a box, they're going to repaint, and somebody else is going to move into that office. You know, if you live your life like that and lean on that wall, you're going to live your life, and when you die, here's what's going to happen. Because I used to be a pastor before I went to the North American Mission Board. I know how it works. I've done hundreds of funerals. Now, you're going to die. We're all going to get together. And if I was the pastor, I would do my job. I'll round up. I'll make you sound as good as possible. All right? That's what pastors do. It's not a time to round down. You just round up. And then everybody's going to go eat potato salad, and they're going to go back home. And they're going to leave a hole. But look, life tends to move on. All I'm wanting you to see today is that God put you here for a purpose to do things that last forever. That's really meaningful. If you want to have a meaningful life, then you understand why you're here, what your purpose is. And listen, He created you to be on mission. Not just to attend a church that's mission-minded, but for you to be on mission. Mark chapter 2 talks about that. I love this passage because of the characters involved. And it's one of the Gospels, Mark, second Gospel over from the New Testament. Now, the reason I love the book of Mark is because Mark is a unique guy. I'm convinced that Mark has an attention disorder. All right? Now, it's not been proven, but I'm just convinced of it by the way he writes. What I mean is, if you read the Gospel of Mark, he'll go for about 8, 9, 10 verses, and then boom, he changes the subject. He'll do another 9 or 10 verses, give or take a few, and then boom, he changes. He's all over the place. And then when he tells a story, he doesn't do details. He just doesn't. It's a lot like Mark is like taking a rock on a pond and just throwing that rock and that rock skimming across the pond, and he just tells the main points. He doesn't go into details. If you want details, you read John, you read Luke or Matthew. You don't read Mark. Now, it's my favorite gospel for that reason because my wife says I'm the same way. And she says, hey, did so-and-so have a baby? And I said, yeah, they had a baby. A boy or girl? And is a baby. All right, it's a baby. I don't know if it's a boy or girl. I don't know the name. I don't know how much they weigh. I just know it's a baby, okay? It's just a baby. The other day I was in Montana preaching and had the windows on the facility where I was. It was absolute torture on me because it's so hard for me to stay focused. That's why I walk around, just to keep my attention. But they're all windows, and so I'd be speaking. A bird would fly by. It's like, oh, there goes a bird. It's just so distracting. That's how Mark is. You got to remember that as we read through it. So I'd like to read through the passage, then rewind, and let's walk through some things that obviously happened. I'm not adding to Scripture, but they obviously happened, and let's just look at how these guys responded because I believe the 4 guys we're going to talk about are a picture perfect of being on mission and being intentional about being missional. Let's look at Mark chapter 2. Starting in verse 1, a few days later when Jesus again entered Capernaum, the people heard that he had come home. And they gathered in such large numbers that there was no room left, not even outside the door, and he preached a word to them. No, they're packed into this house. They're jam-packed in there. Overflow is overflowing. No room for anyone else. And Jesus begins to preach the word to them. Some men came, bringing to him a paralyzed man carried by 4 of them. Since they could not get him to Jesus because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof above Jesus by digging through it and then lowered the mat the man was lying on. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralyzed man, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Remember that part. When Jesus saw their faith, he healed him. Just remember that. Now some teachers of the law were sitting there, thinking to themselves. I always get a kick out of that passage because it's exactly what it is. There's some religious people sitting there thinking to themselves as they're watching this go down. Jesus heals the guy and they're ticked about it. And they start grumbling within there. They're just thinking these things, but you'll see Jesus knows what they're thinking. Look what happens. They're thinking to themselves, why does this fellow talk like that? He's blaspheming. Who can forgive sins but God alone? Immediately, Jesus knew in his spirit that this is what they were thinking, and in their hearts, and he said to them, why are you thinking these things? Which is easier, to say to the paralyzed man, your sins are forgiven, or to say, get up, take your mat, and walk? But I want you to know that the Son of Man has the authority on earth to forgive sins. Now, what he's simply saying is, look, you're focused on me healing the guy physically. There's something much bigger going on here, fellas. And they're just being negative and downplaying it. He says, no, look, I have the authority. The Son of Man has the authority to forgive sins. Healing the guy physically, that ain't no big deal. I can forgive his sins, and that heals him forever in a much greater way. It's what he was trying to explain to them. And so then he turns to the man and says, I tell you, get up, take your mat, and go home. He got up, took his mat, and walked out in full view of them all. This amazed everyone, and they praised God, saying, I want you to help me finish this out. You ready? Here we go. Okay. Now that's what it says, but honestly, you didn't do that very good. All right? Now I've watched on TV. You need a little Bronco mania here. All right? I mean, we got to act like you got a little spunk there. I know you can do it better than that. All right, because that's how it wasn't like, boy, we've never seen anything like this before. It's not that at all. All right, here we go. We've never seen anything like this. That's right. There's another version that says, we've never seen anything like this before. Now, I'm a Kentucky fan, as I said earlier. This is what we say after every touchdown. We've never seen anything like this before. Look, can you imagine they left there saying, my word, we've seen it good. We've seen certain things happen, but we've never seen anything like this before. That's what happened. Now, let's do this. Let's rewind and go back and walk through the story. Okay? You with me? Mark chapter 2, verse 1. Jesus in the house. He's over here in the house, and the house is packed. You can't get anybody else in. And he's preaching the word to them. But meanwhile, on the other side of town, there's at least one guy, at least one, that has an idea. He has an idea because he'd heard what Jesus has done in other cities and towns. And so he said, hey, look, if we could get my friend, and he mentions him by name, I'm sure. Mark doesn't mention the paralytic by name because he doesn't do details. But I'm sure this guy mentioned him by name and says, I'm convinced, I've heard what Jesus has done in other cities. If we could get our friend to Jesus, if we could get him to Jesus, Jesus could heal him and change his life. But I need some guys to help me. Look, you in? I can make it happen. You? Yeah. Okay, we know he got at least 3 others because he was carried by 4. So they all decide at a certain time and a place to meet. We know that had to happen. And then they went to his house. I love the fact they were so inconvenienced because they loved their friend and wanted to see something change in his life. And so they met at a certain place. They go to his house together. They pick him up and they carry him to where? To where Jesus is. This is where Mark allows them to enter the story. Jesus is preaching the word to them, and then all of a sudden, here comes 4 men carrying a paralytic. They get there. Now this, again, I think it's funny because, again, I can identify with Mark. Mark says, there's 4 men carry their paralytic. They get there. There's no place. So they put him up on the roof. They dig a hole in the roof. They lower him to Jesus, and Jesus heals him. That's exactly what it says. Mark acts like this happens every Sunday, I mean, it's like songs, special music, sermon, dig hole in roof, paralyzed man healed. I mean, it's no. Back. It doesn't happen like that every week. Let's just see what you think possibly happened. I'm not adding here. I'm just saying something had to happen. These 4 guys get there carrying their paralytic. They put him down and they look, my gosh, look in there. The place is packed. I know those people. They're not giving up their seats, all right? What should we do? Now, I'm sure they had a little huddle of what we're going to do about plan B here. My degree is in psychology. And one thing we learn in psychology is 1 out of every 4 people tend to be negative, okay? They just do. Now, don't point, okay? But, 1 out of every 4 tend to be somewhat like an Eeyore. They're not bad people. They just round down. They're just an Eeyore. Like, it's going to rain. That kind of a thing. And I'm sure that one of these 4 had to be somewhat negative and probably says, I knew this wasn't a good idea, or we should have come to the early service. You can imagine some of the things they were probably saying. But what we do know is at least one of these guys, at least one said, hey, I got an idea. Now, you're going to think I'm crazy, but hear me out. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take him and we're going to put him on the roof. I can't help but think that the paralytic at that point propped himself up and was like, do what? And I was like, no, it's going to be okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put you on the roof, and then we're going to kind of guess where we think Jesus is. And then we're going to dig a big hole, and we're going to lower you down to where Jesus is, and boom, he's going to heal you. What do you think? I'm sure one of the guys says, wow, we've never done it that way here before. I'm sure there's all kinds of responses. But that's exactly what they did. They put him up on the roof. They began to dig a hole. Can you imagine? Jesus is preaching the word to them, and all of a sudden, can you imagine next Sunday, midway through, some dust began to fall? Some more dust began to fall, and you wipe it away, and all of a sudden you look up, and there's a hand comes through the roof, and another hand. I don't care who you are, I'm watching that, all right? And then a hole appears. Can you imagine some of the side conversations? People say, I bet it's the students. It's always the students. I bet it's those teenagers up there again, And they dig that hole appears, and then all of a sudden, here comes a guy being lowered from the ceiling. And then remember what I told you to remember? Mark chapter 2? Mark recorded, he said, when Jesus saw their faith, he decided to heal him. And so he saw the paralytic's faith. He saw their faith and decided to heal him. I love that part. You know why? I love these guys. Did you catch your name? Did you catch their names? Me either. It's not in there. They're not mentioned. And I'm thankful because it's not their names, it's not them, it's the passion and the drive in their heart. The theme of their heart is what you see here. And we know what that is. It's whatever it takes. These guys have a whatever it takes to get it done. Talking about being on mission. They're on mission. They're going to do whatever it takes. Think about it. They're here. They meet. They go pick up their friend and carry him there. Why? Because it's whatever it takes to get him to Jesus. They get there. The place is packed. Can't get in. They stop. They could have said, we'll come next week, or we should have taken another option. No, we came here to get him to Jesus, and that's what we're going to do. Let's think of something out of the box. We're going to get him to Jesus. Put him on the roof. And so they put him on the roof, and they do whatever it takes. They lower him, and then Jesus, looking at them, says, all right, I'm going to heal this guy. I'm going to make this a life lesson for everybody. And that's exactly what they do. He's healed. His entire life has changed. He came there a paralytic. He left there. And what did Jesus tell him? Hey, don't mind those negative religious people. Take your mat and go home. I love that. You know what happens next? Me either. Mark goes on to something else. He just does. That's how he rolls. But can you imagine what happened next? He said, take your mat and go home. Okay. You think he just wandered in there and said, hey, what's for supper? You think, no. Can you imagine he was carried away from his home and then he comes back and he can walk? Can you imagine the people in his family saying, what happened to you? What happened? Explain. What happened? I can imagine that it's something like the blind man when the blind man said, look, I don't know how all this happened. All I know is I was blind and now I see. I don't know all the technical parts. I don't know how all that. All I do know is I was blind and now I see. I believe something like that probably happened when he said, look, Jesus did it. You had to be there. I've never seen anything like this before, but Jesus did it. That's what happens when a life's transformed. You know what the beauty of churches like Storyline are? That God plants a church like this and then the life changes. Now, the beautiful thing about Storyline is not just the facility. You got an incredible facility and a lot of beautiful things, but it is those relationships and the life change that goes on because of what Christ has done in our lives and how we share that with others. Look, what I want you to see, that these guys were on mission. There are 4 guys focused on getting one person to Jesus so Jesus could change his life. They knew they couldn't do it, but they knew the one who could, and they did everything they could to get him to the one who could. My point is this. Look, who is your one? They had theirs. Who's your one? There's the one person in your life that you could begin to pray today that God uses you to reach. Just pray for an open door. It may be somebody that you work with, that you live nearby. Who is that one person you can intentionally begin to pray and look for open doors? You know, I'm convinced that people are much more open to talking about Jesus than we are interested in talking to them about him. It's amazing. I fly all the time, and there's many times the person beside me will begin to just say, hey, where are you from? I say, I'll tell them where I'm from. I say, where are you from? And, hey, what about your family? And then they begin to tell me, I mean, even before we take off, they tell me things that it's just amazing how much they're open to talking. And I just want to say, who is your one? I was in Cuba a couple years ago. And the reason I was there is Cuba, and in Cuba, there are hundreds of Baptist churches there, and we own, at the North American Mission Board, we have the deeds to those churches. You say, well, why is that? Because the pastors there were afraid if they had the deeds that Castro, when he was in power, would take the deeds away from them, and he would have, take those away from them. So we have all of those. They're in our vault at the North American Mission Board. But I go back there to let them know, look, if you ever want these, you can have them, all right? Just let us know, and just to try to encourage them. And when I was there, Castro was still living. And it was amazing when I asked them, hey, how can I tell people to pray for you? And it was amazing when they told me what had happened years ago. Back when he took over and took control, Castro said, no more churches in Cuba. It's the best Castro imitation I can do. And so what he meant was you can't add a bathroom on, you can't add a room on, you can't build any more churches. What you have is what you got. But you can meet in your homes. If you need a place to meet in your homes. So they did that. The churches began to grow and they stuffed people in there, and then they had to overflow into their homes. And it's really frustrating because he was wanting to spread them out. Thought he'd kind of dilute them, spread them out, and they'd go away if he limited where they could meet. But these house churches began to grow. And so he came out with this edict and said, all right, no more than 50. And they're like, what do you mean? No more than 50. When you get to 50, then you have to go somewhere else and start another one. Like, seriously? And he says, no, government regulation. And that's what, max 50. Well, he thought, look, I'll max it at 50, and again, that'll do away with this, and they'll just die out. The opposite happened. And they began to grow like mad. And so he lowered it to 30. No more than 30. When you get to 30, you have to go and start another one. And that's exactly what they did. And I'll never forget that Cuban pastor saying, it's amazing what God can do. God used a communist leader to start a church planting movement in Cuba. And you know, it's amazing. It is amazing what God can do with people who have very limited freedoms at the time. And you know what was amazing? I told the pastor, I said, well, what can I tell Americans to pray for you about? I said, pray for your freedom. He goes, oh no, I would much rather not have freedom and God start a movement like he's done than to have freedom and God not move like he's done. You know, it's all about obedience. God has called you to be on mission. I promise you. He put you here to do far more than draw a breath and draw a salary. We went to pick up JM in the Philippines. He took that shower that very first night, came out smelling really good, and all shriveled up, smelling good though. But I'll never forget when we put him to bed that night, something was really unique. He tucked him in, but he hopped up and he hugged us really tight. And I remember he hugged me really tight and said, "I love you, Dad." That's the first time I'd ever heard him say that. I said, "I love you too, buddy." Then he did something really awkward. That's our first night together now. And he takes his little fist, if you will, he's 12, and he pushes it on my cheeks really tight, like this. And he just looks at me. And I'm not sure exactly what to do. You know, I'm thinking, is this a Philippine custom? You know? Like, do I do it back? Like, good night. You know, I mean, what do you do? Or you know, I'm thinking, man, I should have listened during that orientation. You know, I was watching the birds. And I was like, what did I do? And I said, hey, Jim, everything okay? Everything okay? And he pushed in a little harder. And I'll never forget those big brown Filipino eyes when he said, "I'll be a good son for you." And I was like, well, good. I'm going to be a good dad for you, I promise. Oh, I put him to bed. I got on the cot I had next to his bed, and it just gut wrenched me, you know, how sweet that was. And the next morning, 4 a.m, his face is right here. It's like, "Good morning, Dad." I was like, whoa. And in case you did not know, bad breath is universal, all right? It is. I said, "What's wrong, buddy?" He goes, "I'll be a good son for you today." And I said, well, good. Now, why don't you go on back to bed, all right? And you say, 4 a.m? Yeah, it's at 4 a.m. In their orphanage, they would get up at 4. They would do chores from 4 to 5, breakfast from 5 to 5:30, and go to school at 6. Man, it's incredible. I don't know if you're considering adopting, but all of our kids came very disciplined. But don't let that scare you, because, again, if they spend just a few months with your biological kids, they become just as lazy as they are. They really do. It's not a problem. It works itself out, all right? It does. But I'll never forget that morning, that night again, the next morning again, the next night. So I finally told my wife, we got to have a little family meeting here. And so we sat down with him and said, "JM, listen, you need to understand something. You are a part of our forever family. Our forever family. Means you're part of our family forever. God put you in our family, and you're in it forever. Whether you're good or whether you're bad. We prefer good, but either way, you're a part of our family." You understand that? Because in our mind, he was trying to earn the right to stay in the family and say, "Look, I'm going to be a good son. I promise I'll be a good son." And he worked really hard all day long so he could be in the family again the next day. And I was trying to help him see that it wasn't based upon his work and how good he was. It was based about something that had already been done for him. It wasn't based on him, but what was done for him. What a beautiful picture of exactly what's been done for us. When God so loved us that he sent his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. That in while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. And that's not based on our behavior, but it's based on what? His sacrifice and what he did on the cross for us. And it's just up for us to be obedient. I couldn't help but think, though, when I went to bed that night, you know what it would be like if each one of us, every morning or every night, would pray and look in to our Heavenly Father and say, I will be a good son. I will be a good daughter. I'm thankful that you've come into my life, but I will be obedient. And basically you're saying, I will be on mission for you. Time for us to be on mission. Who is your one? I want us to bow our heads. As we bow our heads, maybe here and you don't have a relationship with Christ, and at the end of our service, we have a prayer team that's down here. They would love to pray with you and take you through the next steps from that. That's why we do everything we do here. Maybe that you're a believer, but you've just kind of been cruising through life, just responding, reacting to it, not really being on mission. Look, I just want to encourage you today to take that first step of being on mission. Just come up with your one, just to pray for your one. I mean, every person can do one. God placed you here for a purpose. May you fulfill it and be obedient. Father, thank you for how you love us. You provided everything for us. And Lord, now you've given us a life that we could live to serve you and glorify you. May it all be about you. We thank you for the love that you bestow upon us. And Lord, may we not just harbor that, hide it in our own heart, but may we share it with the world. Lord, help us to be people on mission. We are so grateful. We're so thankful. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks for listening to Storyline's weekly message online. We hope you're blessed and challenged by it. If you'd like to respond to something you heard, please email us at contact